let's see what that does. I'm not 100% sure what that's gonna do when it posts it,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it lets you put in a description.
Nice.
So, hopefully oh, yeah. Nope, never mind. That was
It was amazing. No, it wasn't.
that was last week's deal that popped up. There we go. It does it. Yeah, let's
Nice.
go. 'Cause, I always have to go in and add the description,
Yeah. Oh, I got you.
but it did it for us this time.
Nice.
Okay. All right, let me go over here, and that's really cool, man. We will do the share thing, get that going. So, doing some learning today, made some changes. So, hopefully, people that are jumping on and watching, Ken, hopefully they can let us know if there's any negative effects.
We need to know if there's negative effects. We speaking of jumping on,
Yeah.
I had last night we were watching this video. It was a dog, and they told the dog that the horse race was getting ready to start.
Okay.
And so the dog runs over, drops his bone, whatever, runs over to the TV, and they have like the TV standing on like a, I don't know what you call it, but like a console or a whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog stands up on it, and its tails is going, "Ba-da-da-da-da." And the dog stands there, and it goes, and they're off, and the bell rings, and the dog starts jumping, and it's watching the TV, and its hind legs are going bloom, 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 and it's jumping up, and it's like pulling its hind legs up, like it's like go,
That's
go.
awesome.
It was hilarious.
That is awesome. I saw a hilarious thing on Twitter, and it said viewing church online, and it had it was a TV, like a massive screen, like an 85-inch screen TV,
Right.
and playing on it was bacon cooking. So it was like bacon sizzling, is perfect, like the perfect looking bacon, and the dog was licking the screen. And they said, "This is what online church is like."
The dog was licking the screen. That's so good, man. That Terry Shock, somebody sent me a clip.
Mhm.
Terry Shock preached at the Apostolic Conference last week.
Okay, yeah.
Or this weekend, last weekend, whatever it was. And anyway, man, oh man, he was preaching. Speaking of online and whatever, he made the statement. He said, I'm going to paraphrase.
Yeah.
He said, there are churches that are they're not doing what they're doing because it's the will of God. He said they're doing what they're doing because of the influence of social media. He said the greatest source of competition in the apostolic church right now is social media. And he said, now, it might be will of God for church A to do something.
Yeah.
Which he said, I say that very loosely because I've seen some of the things that people think are the will of God. He said, I mean, he was all in, bro. He said, but what ends up happening is it's certainly not the will of God for church B, but because church A made it look so amazing on their social media, church B ends up doing something. And he said, and we got churches that aren't following the will of God. They're not seeking what God wants them to do. And he said, all they're doing is replicating for fear of missing out, but fear of being the lame
FOMO.
church.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be the lame church. And so we're going to do that. And man, bro,
which is that's so good, man. That's the heartbeat of a attractional model church, right?
Sure is. Well, they're doing it. And like some churches get online, they've got an online presence. There's no possible way for you to even know what's under the hood.
Right.
Like,
Right.
do I
Right.
even want to copy that? Do I even want to? I mean, but it's, man, it's style over substance. Rush Limbaugh had it 20 years ago, dude.
Style over substance.
We're living in a world of style over substance. It's made its way into the church. Hey, look here, Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarki.
Yeah, give us the weather updates. It's Weather on the Ones, Ken, here at the Mobilized Church Podcast with Ken Dillingham.
Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarki checking in today, saying it's 60 degrees with a high of what? 69. Very cool week in Northeast Ohio. Next week, it'll be in the 90s. Welcome to Ohio, ladies and gentlemen.
Bro, for real. It is absolutely spectacular out there today. It's
Yes.
gorgeous, man. It's beautiful. Although I get a little, I don't know, like I love fall, Ken. I love fall because it's getting to, like this, especially today, last couple of days,
Yeah.
starts making you like feel like football weather and all that good stuff. And I'm looking forward to that. But man, this is horrible. I need discipleship in this area, so I need you to help me. But I love fall, but I struggle because I know it's just a couple clicks away from winter.
Yes, I'm the same. So I don't know that I'm the one that can help you on that. It's one of those deals where it's like you just can't help but to anticipate what's beyond it.
It's true.
You
That's
know,
true.
it's
True.
and if we could just enjoy it like a chocolate donut.
Just live in the moment.
You have a Long John, and I mean a real Long John, not the ones with the cream stuff on the inside. I mean,
No, that's fake. That's
right. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the true Long John. That's just a nice, soft, regular, long,
Ooh. You're
sort of
speaking
like,
my love language right now.
yeah. And then a chocolate, the chocolate icing on it, and it's just a perfect blend of just that donut and the sweetness. And it's like, you're like, I mean, this is gonna make your pants fit tight. And so, but you're not anticipating on the other side of it. It's like, I can't even enjoy this donut because I know my pants are going to fit tight. Oh no. So I'm like, well, then, Lord, help me to enjoy fall, knowing that
I know
what's coming on the other side of it.
I guess, I mean, it could always be worse, Ken. We could be living in Gaylord, Michigan.
It is true.
Just offended all of our Gaylord, Michigan people.
I know. I did think that this morning. I got in the car and I thought, man, I wonder what the temperature is today in Mackinac. People are like, it is not Mackinac. I'm like, yes, it is.
I want to know why the city is spelled like it's like NAW and the island is spelled NAC. Like they're just so confused.
Right.
Michigan people. It's Michigan people. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Buddy Alan Smith from Illinois chiming in. It's a play 36 holes kind of a day outside. That is exactly right. If I wasn't still battling the broken finger. I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still battling the broken finger.
Exactly. Oh, man, so much conversation we could have around that.
We need to get going. Get off the rails real quick. I was talking to somebody this week, and they were talking about the podcast, and they said they really enjoyed the podcast, but you really need to jump on early to get the good stuff.
Yeah, isn't that sad? It's proving that we need to do a spin-off podcast that's just we could call it meaningless meanderings.
Stupidity. Yeah. I like it. I like that's good. All right. We got a good crew on all the different platforms, which is cool. It's awesome. And we're getting a lot of so it's interesting. We're getting a lot of conversation on YouTube after. So like replay. So we're getting a lot of that, which is very cool. So we appreciate all those that are watching on YouTube or will be watching on YouTube. We welcome you. So we got Jimmy Tony in the house.
He is the man.
My God. He's a beast, bro.
I was thinking,
Jimmy Tony's a beast.
I was actually thinking about Jimmy Tony this morning. I was wondering how he's doing, and I was just thinking about him this morning. I prayed for Jimmy Tony this morning.
I guarantee you this, Jimmy Tony's living the good life.
Yeah, he is. I promise you this much: it's not 59 degrees in Gainesville.
I would think not. Maybe he could give us a weather report from
From our Southern Command Center.
from Gatorland. Gatorland. All right, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham alongside my big brother Ken Dillingham Jr. the third on this beautiful August day. Doesn't feel like August.
No,
It
it does not.
kind of feels like late September, early October out there today.
It actually
we had our weather report from Chief Meteorologist Kim Bastarkey earlier. Still waiting for a report from Gainesville from Jimmy Tony, but it is a beautiful day here in Ohio.
It is, and it's this is the thing. It's like these are the days where people would be moving to Dayton and Toledo, not Gainesville. If this was the way it was all the time.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. Toledo, dude, we have amazing summers, bro. I mean, our summers. Now, I will say this: the last 2 summers, we've had some longer stretches of heat and humidity than we normally have.
Right.
But the evenings, man, will get down to like low 60s. It's beautiful outside. It's just perfect weather. So this is our wheelhouse.
If this is global warming, I'm all for it.
I'm all about it. 100%, man. 100%. So, all right. So we got a great topic today, and we're ready to dive in. So we appreciate everybody that is jumping on and watching across all the platforms. Do us a favor. They can do us a favor. You can share it on Facebook, get the word out on YouTube, repost it on Twitter. No, X. Sorry. I can't undo that, bro. It's like Twitter. I can't call it X. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's Twitter. It's Twitter. X is just its nickname. Like, they called you Dill Pickle. Your name was still your name.
Your name's still your name. That's exactly right. Oh, man. We got some comments here coming in on the weather. Jimmy Tony reports that just know that it's hot in Florida.
Yes.
Which is like saying water's wet. We know it's hot there. He said he was going to preach on hell. He said he was going to preach on hell, but he was afraid.
People are so used to it. They're like, I ain't scared of hell.
Ain't no big deal. I can do that. And then unwarranted, totally unnecessary. Jeffrey Glick comes in off the top rope from San Francisco with the slam against Ohio. It's about time Ohio gets some perfect weather.
Man,
I was going to make a comment.
He ought to be the spokesman for Great Lakes Youth Conference.
I was going to make a comment about like all of the politicians that come from his location and area, but we won't do that. We won't jump on him today. He can't control that.
No, like presidential candidates and stuff. All which segues us into our perfectly segues us into our topic today.
See, that's how we roll. Totally unscripted
broadcast professionals.
Just exactly right into what we want to talk about today. We do have a good topic. So hit the share button, get the word out. And we do appreciate everybody listening and watching live, and all those that watch or listen later. We appreciate that. Got some great feedback. So thank you for that. So today, Ken, we're gonna just jump right in and get right after it. And I'm gonna let you kind of get us kicked off. I'm just you had some thoughts this morning and just really phenomenal. So I want you to kind of get it set off in the right direction. And I think it's going to be a great conversation today. I think timely, obviously relevance is a big key. And I think with what we're seeing and experiencing, political season always brings out the cray-cray, dude, brings out the just wild stuff. So I think this is a really good conversation for us as missional people, disciple makers, living on mission, how to navigate through like just the wild craziness of the season we're living in. But it's not just this season, it's the world. So get us kicked off talking about the way.
Awesome. I think missiology, the idea of living on mission, doing the mission, to me is an amazing. It's an amazing opportunity for us to get out of the echo chamber. It is missiology causes us to recognize and realize, like, are we connecting? How do we connect? How do we connect the message? How do we
Mhm.
make it gospel for people? You could just say, without a view of the mission, you could look at it and just say, you know what? Well, we're just going to keep saying what we're going to say, and whoever God's talking to, fine. And what if not, then you know, sorry for their eternal luck, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah.
so there is a topic that we enjoy, and I think that this is something. It's sort of an anchor point, and periodically we'll go back to it, and it is sort of discussing the difference between a way and the way. And
Mhm.
I'll just make some bullet points, and we can just extract whatever we want from those bullet points. So let me just make a few bullet points today, and I'll introduce it that way.
Okay, sure.
The Bible said there is a way that seems right to a man, but the end is destruction. Then
Yeah,
Jesus said, I am the way, right? The truth and the
sure.
life. And so there is a way, and there's the way. And I think this is something that in a period of time, in a season, political, the social season that we're in, the political season that we're in, there is a perspective, a mindset where there is a sort of a doubling down on your positions.
Yeah,
For political parties, it is their party platform. It is. I think there's a couple of things that are at working or at play in that. I
yeah,
think the reason why they double down, one is because it distinguishes them from their opponent. They're that, we're this, which then results in, by very virtue of that, it results in an exaggeration of where the other side is.
sure,
It
absolutely.
it exaggerates, you know,
Man, that's a great point. It's so hard
com
to navigate through all that kinda stuff because, like, you see it and you know it, and you're like, "That can't be true," but
right.
right?
Right. To one side, Kamala Harris is leading us straight into pure socialism and communism.
Yeah,
She'll destroy the country by taking us into socialism. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is going to destroy the country by taking us into a pure totalitarian dictatorship.
he's gonna destroy
He's
democracy.
going to destroy democracy through totalitarianism, and she's going to destroy democracy through socialism and communism. And and so what happens is these exaggerations are a a part of leveraging the positions, the party positions, their party platform, and their worldview,
Yeah,
right? It's an exaggeration. Why the exaggeration? To strengthen and garner those that are on their side. If if their positions are more extreme, if the outcomes of electing that person are more extreme, then at the end of the day, then it's going to be, well, man, I don't want that. And what it does is, I think that there's this piece. I don't get too much into the political uh, discussion for political philosophy, but I think the thing that this middle ground has decided so many votes, or so many elections, they say there's 45% on one side and 45% on the other, and almost every election is decided by the 10% that's in the middle, and who sort of sways in and out of that. And so so this is a touchy deal. So, but today, what we're gonna talk about is that as Christians, we're not immune to those kinds uh, of exaggerations,
yeah,
of doubling down on our positions against the sociocultural positions of particular parties, people, groups, the directions that things are going, etc. And so today, what we want to talk about is that there is something that God has done because he's God.
Yeah.
God has embedded truth into the laws of creation.
Mhm.
There are things, and the laws of creation are reflective of God. Psalm 19 says that the heavens declare him.
Yeah.
Romans 1 says that the things about God can be known by the things that he made. So there are laws, there are truths, right?
Yeah.
Like I had a conversation with an amazing theologian last night. We were talking about the difference between capital T truths and lower T truths,
Okay.
right? There are some capital T truths. So we live in a world, Chris, today where God has brought truth in its most practical application way. God has brought truth into the dysfunctional world that we live in. But there is a truth that extends beyond us. It is the truth of creation. It's the truth of the world beyond us. And so there is a world today that God is in charge of, that we're not going to affect it. We're not going to change it. And so let's just have that discussion.
Yeah.
Let's have the discussion about the way of God that is immutable.
Yeah. I think this is such an important conversation, Ken, because I mean, you use the political as an example. So this isn't a conversation just about politics, but I do think it highlights both a risk and an opportunity that we have right now, and it plays off the same thing, and that is, you know, there are a lot of things that have happened in the last several years that have kind of caused people to question every piece of information that they get.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
social media, like, you don't know what information you're getting that is the truth and what is not the truth.
So
You
true.
don't know what's being hidden, like, we've had all of these things, and it just feels like and seems like, man, we're not getting all of the information.
Right.
They're hiding it. And then the flip side, which then what that does is then that makes people prone to believe crazy stuff,
Right.
like
Right.
like wild stuff. And you have,
Yeah.
not so like you have all these just outlandish conspiracy theories, and that the unintended consequence of that is people just don't know what to believe,
So true.
which makes people super uneasy and unsettled because you don't know what's real. And then, bro, then you throw into a AI
Yeah.
and the crazy stuff with AI that, like, they can totally and completely mimic a
Mm-hmm.
person's voice to be exactly, I mean, it sound exactly like that person. I mean, it's not
Right.
perfect, like, video's not
Right.
perfect right now, but it's coming.
Right.
And so there's this confusion. So the risk I think is it breeds in society today kind of like this out of the gate cynicism and skepticism. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna believe anything. I'm gonna be totally
Yeah.
cynical and skeptical about everything.
Right.
But the opportunity, I think, is that it also the things that people have kind of held on to as being stable foundations that they can believe in
Yeah.
over the last 30, 40 years, those things have started to crumble and shake, right?
Yeah.
And because information is so available so readily, so quickly, and whatever, that now all of a sudden, man, those things that used to be kinda like, for example, like, even I've seen some conversations, articles written recently about evolution and
Uh-huh.
about how the theory of evolution needs an update. There's new information, and so they're talking about, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you have this thing that you thought was the foundation. I'm talking about secular society and whatever for science, and now all of a sudden, well, there's probably some more information. We need to kind of update this, and there's some things need tweaked and whatever. I think there's a lot of things that are being kind of rattled and shaken, which the
Yeah.
Bible tells us that everything that can be shaken will be shaken. I think we're seeing a lot of that. The opportunity
Yeah.
is that people are looking for something that is timeless,
Yep.
that you can build, and that's the thing about the truths of God. And this is the danger of when we engage people in those places, whether it's political or social or whatever, and we try to be like odd defenders, or we try to, you know, uh, like position ourselves politically
Yeah.
versus the truths of God, then we do a great disservice, because the foundational things, the things that are gonna last, the things that are eternal and gonna stand, which is what we know biblically, but we see it, is the eternal truths of God. So talk to us again. How do we capitalize on those opportunities? How do we mitigate those risks?
Mhm.
And what does it look like when we start talking about, you talk about capital T and
Yeah.
lowercase, like,
Yeah.
talk through us some of those things.
Well, I think one of the things that is important for us is is that to understand that the real quest that we're on
Mhm.
is there any such thing as the way? Is it all just a way? Um,
Which, religiously, right?
yeah,
Many roads just leading to the same
right.
destination.
Yeah, right. And I think that's the thing where, from a religious perspective or even in a individual's perspective, you have this mindset or mentality that's been perpetuated philosophically for a long time. And that is that there is no absolute truth.
Sure.
Everything is subjective. It's, somebody one time said, don't judge a person until you walked a mile in their shoes. Um, eh, then if they get mad at you, you're a mile away and you still have their shoes. Um, but but
That's awesome.
but I think that's the thing where, but the mindset kind of has become too, to say there is that philosophy, but then it's like, well, but you know what? Even then, if I walk a mile in their shoes, I might not come to the same conclusions, and so because we're all so different, and so on and so forth, and I think it does to some degree. It perpetuates a mindset that says everything's just a way.
Yeah.
And so the question then is there such thing as the way? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
are we, are we
Right.
just looking for something that really isn't there? Somebody once said that philosophy is defined as a blind man searching in a dark room for a black cat that isn't there.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
are we as believers on the same kind, because there would be people in the world today that would say that, well, okay, I appreciate what you guys are doing and saying whatever, but are we on the same kind of futile search, right? When we're searching in a universe filled with all of the complications, the dynamics of all these different people and all this, are we really just religiously blind people searching in a dark room for a truths that aren't there?
Yeah.
Um, are we really on that same kind when we are searching in this universe for the way? Or are we trying to impose on reality our way and making it out to be the way?
Hmm.
That's what people in the world are. That's the thing that they're struggling with. And I think this is the thing that we need to come to the conclusion, because I think this is, I don't care how much you pound the desk,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it for the person you're talking to. It doesn't make it become the way. This is the way. So this is where the political deal, this is where we can sort of get off track, because
Yes.
what happens is how do we prove to people, how do we prove to skeptics that we're not people imposing onto the reality of life our way and calling it the way,
Right.
right? and
Right.
and I think this is the discussion. I think that as we look through this, I think an example of this would be that we realize here's the majesty and genius of God,
Yeah.
right? God is a genius. God is who has known the mind of God that he might instruct him. God in his omniscience and his genius that is beyond our comprehension and finding out. So God makes a world and he embeds into the world a way for us to know the difference between, is it just a way or is it the way? Well, what we could do is we could say, well, we can know that there are things that are not the way.
Yeah.
So people go, well, is it a way or is it the way? Is it just a way or is it the way? Well, here's my question. Is there any old kind of way that you can make water? Can you just say, well, it's just your way? It's just your way of making water. And right. So in chemistry,
Yeah.
H2O produces water, period.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can fight with the formula all you want. You can try to twist it. You can turn it. You can philosophically define it as something else. You could whatever. But in the end, if you want water, you will surrender to the way, you'll accept it and obey it, or you're not going to produce water. It's 2 parts hydrogen and it's 1 part oxygen. That's the way. And everything else, if you want water, is not the way. I think if we could learn to begin to help people understand that we're not just simply talking about our way and calling it the way, but that we realize that by the way that God has even constructed our world, that there is such thing as the way and not the way. What we're saying is that so let's identify the not the way and help point people to the way.
Man, that's so good. And this is such an important topic, bro. This is such an absolutely important topic because we're seeing the fruit of generations of the relativism doctrine.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that has been so deeply embedded, you know, for decades now, particularly in the educational system, that even so again, going back to like foundational things, you know, that we know to be true are now being, well, that may not be for you, right? So like simple math equations, 2 + 2 is 4, but we're living in a culture, and we've been pounding the table on this for a long time about like, yes, you know, when you live in a culture where Christianity is the dominant culture and everybody has some level of Christian I say everybody, that's overgeneralization, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like broadly, majority have kind of a baseline of biblical morality and all that kind of stuff. And so the idea was, well, they just need a little more understanding of truth, or a little more
or reinforcement of it
or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the generations coming up don't have that. They don't have that baseline.
No.
And it has been absolutely pumped into their head that there is no solid foundation of truth.
Right.
Which, to your point,
that they have been conditioned to believe that morally there is no the way.
They've been conditioned to believe that what they feel is more important than what is true.
Right.
So if you don't feel like 2 + 2 = 4, then for you, that's not the case.
Right. It might not be 4 for you.
Right.
But what happens is, though, so here's where Christians, Chris, this is where Christians get into the place where sometimes I think we argue the wrong argument. That's
why exactly. That's why I think this conversation is so critical, because we pound the table. No, you have to believe 2 + 2 is 4. We're arguing the wrong thing.
Right. I think that sometimes being able to just simply walk with people to the point that they trust you, and we go, okay, so let's look at this. Facts don't care how we feel.
Yeah.
So if facts don't care how we feel, all right, so let's facts don't care how we feel.
Yeah.
You can look at a Tesla truck and say, that's the ugliest piece of junk I have ever seen in my life.
Don't be dogging Elon in the Cybertruck. Come on now.
Bro, I personally think it's nasty. It's ugly. It's horrific. Right. I mean, is that the best you could produce to try to get people to want to buy your truck? Or is it a marketing deal? Or is it's like, well, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to draw attention to it. I don't know. The point is somebody else may come along. So watch. So I've stated a position. I think it's ugly.
Right.
Somebody else may come along and go, I think it's cool. Now we're arguing about whether or not the Tesla truck is ugly or is it cool?
Yeah.
Here's the deal. At the end of the day, the facts are, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's so I think that just like when we're talking about 2 + 2, you could take evidential results, right?
Yeah.
And you could say, look, here's 2 ice cream cones and here's 2 ice cream cones. We got 4 people in the car. We all get an ice cream cone. It's evidential fact, all 2 and 2. I got 2 in this end. I got 2. It's 4. And the thing about it is it is what it is. But sometimes what happens is we want to get on a bandwagon and we want to pound the idea that 2 + 2 does equal 4. And somebody says, but I don't feel like it should, or I don't feel like it equals 4. It doesn't always equal, whatever. And I think that if we could get to a place where we could say, well, what is not the way? What is, because again, going back to H2O,
yeah,
you could say, well, I've got hydrogen, I've got oxygen, but I just want to do 1 hydrogen molecule and 1 oxygen, or I want to do 3.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, and this is the thing, and I think let's just throw this out here, Chris, because when it says there is a way that seems right to a man, this is why we should have a burden. Right?
Yeah.
Not because we've learned how to prove our way until we've gotten people over to our way. That's not even the mission.
Yeah.
The mission is to get people out of the end result of the way that seems right to a person, but the end is destruction. And sometimes we think that the end is destruction. We look at it sometimes and say, well, the end is destruction because they've been perpetuating a lie and eventually the God of truth is going to hammer them.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it could be that the end is destruction because they're messing around with a not the way and they're going to force it and they're going to make it work. And they're in there trying to do a different form of water. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they make a bomb and blow up the whole laboratory. The end can be destruction simply because of the fact that the way produces undesirable consequences.
Yeah. So
and
good,
so
man.
if
That's
we
so
could get
good.
to that place, Chris, where we could help people say the result of that is going to be undesirable consequences. And so we can prove that it's not the way because the undesirable consequences at the end of the road.
Man, it's so good. And to use your example, like, you've talked a lot about the Izot gap and how that we love to stand at the ought and just pound our fist on the ought.
Right.
So to use that example, that's kind of what we've done. Like foundationally, like in math, 2 + 2 has always been 4. You have to believe that 2 + 2 is 4, dadgummit. Like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
But to your point, and this is kind of an exaggerated example here, but if somebody lives their life in a way that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, there are going to be some consequences at some point that they're going to experience because I feel like 2 + 2 is 0. So,
eventually their tax return is going to become uncomfortable.
Yeah. So how do we appeal? How do we reach in a culture, in a generation? And I think what you said, like the burden comes from a place of not like, we want you to believe this because this is what it's always been, bless God. We want them to believe this and see this because, again, Jesus is the better way. And there are consequences of living a life based on just what you feel. So I want to highlight a couple comments because I think it connects to like understanding how to communicate and how to relate and how to deal with people. And I think in this political season, I think it's so critical, Kim, because again, we feel the pushback and the pressure of those extremes you talked about, and bless God, we've got to defend it. But how do we really communicate with people that genuinely believe like what I feel is more important than what you claim to be the truth? And who are you anyway? What do you know? You don't know the truth. So Jay Jones mentioned, he said, thankfully, there are evidential facts that are also experiential. God is evidenced through experience as much as he is through discoverable facts. And helping people to discover experience God is greater persuasion than our arguments will ever be. And then Donald Hood makes a great comment. When a person is unknowingly blind, the sense of feeling becomes reality to them.
Mm,
The real issue then is not
mm,
how it feels, but rather obtaining vision of truth.
mm.
And I think
Their
that is
yeah,
that's
their fingers become their eyesight, braille.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
feeling.
so yeah, and okay, we can push back and fight against it, whatever, but he makes a great point that we can yell at people,
Yeah,
but it's what they feel.
yeah.
And they're because they're blinded to that, what they feel is always gonna override because it's the security, and there's a lot of identity tied to that and whatever. And so I do think Jay's point about the experience the experience with God proves and validates, right? It proves and validates, the evidential facts, the
Yeah.
truth. It proves that, and this is why we say stories tell the story. This is why
Experience doesn't make it true.
correct. It re
Jay's not saying that
no.
experience makes it true. Experience helps a person discover.
Yeah,
It produces a framework of discovery, right?
and this is why we say, in order to make disciples, you have to first be the disciple, because people need to see in us that living by the ways
Right.
of Jesus
Right, right.
doesn't always produce what the world might thinks
Mhm,
is better results, which is
mhm.
just the ignorance and the stupidity of the prosperity gospel junk,
Yeah.
which absolutely does so much more harm, because then people are like, "Well, I thought you got Jesus on your side and you got cancer, or
Yeah.
you don't have
Yeah.
your bills paid or whatever." But if
Yeah.
we can show people that the Jesus way is the better way, because through life's problems, he helps us get through.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Like we become the thing that they can see,
Mm.
and we need to be the thing that they can see what it looks like to live
Mhm.
by the way, and how
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
makes our lives different and better than theirs.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that that sounded bad.
Better than there. No, no, no. That we're that our life ultimately is going to prove that Jesus's way is the better way.
Yeah,
It's not that we have a better life than them.
that's exactly right. Yeah, thanks
So
for clarifying that.
here we are in you've been here many times. Have I ever taken you to the Air Force Museum?
Do you know I've never been?
You got to come, bro.
I've never been.
It's absolutely bogglingly cool. And it's only what 10 minutes from us.
Yeah,
And the Air Force Museum is amazing. On the other end of the Air Force Museum, just maybe a mile away, is a national park,
okay,
and it is the Wright Brothers Memorial. And it's so interesting because at the Wright Brothers Memorial, they have their wind tunnel that they made,
okay,
that they made a discovery that Bernoulli's law basically says that the earth isn't in a vacuum. And so when there's more pressure, when more pressure is produced, uh, you know, in a because it's not in a vacuum, right?
yeah,
The pressure will fill up a void, and so they learn that it wasn't it wasn't because planes didn't have enough engines. It wasn't because it didn't have enough wings. It wasn't leveraging the laws of physics that God has placed into the world. Man kept saying, "Man, if we could just get an airplane with 20 wings, that it would prove that the plane with 10 wings didn't fly because it didn't have enough wings. Or
yeah,
we're going to have 4 engines so that we could have 4 propellers that's going to have more thrust, and it's going to." And what the Wright brothers did was they flew an airplane. You ready for this?
okay.
Not because they invented laws of aviation.
Okay.
They discovered them.
Mm,
The Wright brothers did not impose the laws of
yes,
aviation on the rest of the world so that eventually the rest of the world
it's a
goes,
great point.
the rest of the world goes, Wow, man, the Wright brothers just eventually proved the world wrong. The Wright brothers proved everybody wrong. No, they didn't prove everybody wrong. That's not what they were trying to do. They were
Right.
trying to discover the laws of aviation.
Man, I love
And
that.
and so when they flew, they didn't necessarily prove everybody wrong. They just proved that everybody else was trying to fly and it was not the way.
Yeah.
And I think that if we could get to a place where we could help people understand that you can't all of a sudden say, for just a moment, we're going to suspend the laws of aviation. You'll drop out of the sky,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
here's the deal. You
Yeah.
have to obey it or it will break you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing where if we could help people say, not in a, snide, and how's that working out for you kind of way,
Yeah.
but like you just said, like the Wright brothers, what if we could say, you know what? There's a long history of people, and we stand at the end of the road. This world was here when we got here, and it's going to be here when we leave. And regardless of the arrogance and the pride of people in the world in which we live today, on the left and on the right, among liberals and among conservatives, even among Christians and atheists and whatever in between,
Yeah.
there's a lot of arrogance and there's a lot of pride. And it's a lot of trying to prove everybody else wrong
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free."
Yeah.
God did not give us truth so that we could formulate doctrinal beliefs in order to prove all other beliefs wrong.
Man, that's so
God
good, bro.
God gave us truth so that we could become free, and that through that, like the Wright brothers, we could say we discovered some laws of aviation. We discovered some laws of living
Yeah.
that in the end did prove that other ways are not the way.
Right.
And so because of
Right.
that, it's not an arrogance, but it is a hope that we want to help bring you out of not the way. And today, everybody flies airplanes based upon the laws of aviation that they discovered, not because they proved anybody wrong, but because they freed us
Yeah.
to live in such a way that we can overcome.
Absolutely, man. And to your point, going back again, just the statement that you made about the burden, right? The burden for for wanting people to see the way. I
Yeah.
think that's such a critical piece. And to just like a very simple example, you got a bunch of people standing on the edge of our two-story building here on the church. You got
Yeah.
them up standing on the edge saying, "Well, I don't believe gravity."
Yeah.
Like, do we wanna stand there and yell at them because they don't believe
Yeah.
the truth of what
Right.
it is? And, like, we
Right.
want them bless God, we've gotta get them to understand the truth. Or is it because we understand that that we need to, like, one more step, and they're
Right.
going to experience the effects
Yeah.
of what their belief system is going to produce. And I do think what you
And
said is so
can I
true.
interject something real quick?
Yeah.
I think this goes along what you're talking about is helping people to this is a practical thing. So what does the Bible mean when it says speak the truth in love?
Yeah.
Speak the truth in love says you should be careful because the laws of gravity are going to get you if you take another step.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think the thing that has to help us get there, Ken,
Yeah.
is as Christians, and this is again going back to be the disciple piece. I think a lot of times it comes from our place of insecurity, maybe in the things of God, because oftentimes it may look like in the moment, that what we say or what we think or we believe is
Yeah.
it maybe not the truth, or it may seem like evil is winning, or it may seem like people doing life their own way produces good things and positive things. Sometimes as Christians, we get off track, and so some that insecurity, produces that. But man, if we got to this place where we were so radically convinced and just
Mhm.
believe that the Jesus way is the better way, we want everybody to
Mhm.
experience it. And we know if they don't, again, what you said, not from the judgmental, like, go ahead, take a step off, sucker. See if I care. You rejected truth anyway. What if we looked at it and said, no, we want to help people step away from the ledge because we know what that's going to produce. And then on the flip side, we also know what the way, the Jesus way, what that's
Mhm.
gonna produce in a person's life. And I think that's where, all that we do and all we talk about missional living,
Yeah.
it sometimes I do feel like we have become so much truth ought defenders
Yeah.
that we've missed the point, and then we pray, "God, give me a burden for people." But man, if we could get what you're talking about today, if we
Yeah.
could get this so deeply rooted in us,
Mhm.
now all of a sudden it wouldn't require motivation. It wouldn't require, like,
Right.
we would have a desire, and we wouldn't get freaked out
Right.
when people believe weird stuff.
There you go. Bro, see, that's the thing. That's the thing. It is what would happen if we could, Chris, what would happen if we arrived at a place that we said, do we really believe?
Yeah,
Are we really believers?
right.
Do we believe that the eternal truths of God that are anchored in his very nature are going to somehow become changed
Yeah,
because there's a bunch of people teaching a bunch of crazy stuff in a bunch of places that's affecting large portions of society?
yeah,
That I
right,
think I
right,
th yeah, I mean,
right.
do we do we really believe that God is so supreme that at the end of the day, his his truths are going to be defended by his sovereign nature?
Yeah,
And just like you said, the law of gravity or laws of aviation, which have to do with gravity, or the laws of chemistry, H2O, and people are like, people could get up and make all kinds of amazing. I think we've just discovered that there's a way to make water other than H2O, and then all of a sudden people are like, that can't be. And then what happens is there's H2O arguments, and there's H2O debates, and there's, whatever.
mhm,
Here's the
mhm,
deal. Do we really believe that the law of chemistry is going to hold true regardless of what the debate is and what people are saying? And at the end of the day, it's 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 irrefutable and it's irrevertible.
yeah,
And so, you know, I love, and we owe a lot today to the fabulous. There is a devotion that we would encourage people to get. That is by Stanley Jones. It's a devotion called "The Way,"
mhm,
and I would encourage people. Immanuel Kant, a philosopher, once said, "Two things fill the mind with awe: the starry heavens above and the moral law within." And the question that we ask is was he referring to the fact when he said the stars above, which are so far out there that they're beyond us, that it's nothing we can affect. It's nothing we can change.
yeah,
Why do the stars in the galaxy in the Milky Way, and you start expanding out and out and out and out, and we get to a place where we go, wow, that's so much bigger than us. There's there's nothing we're going to do to change that. When we
right,
start looking at the macro universe,
yeah,
oh my God. Okay. But then he says the starry sky beyond us, but then he said the moral law within.
mhm,
And is he talking about the fact that as much as you want to believe something and think something and you've spent time, there's a nagging sense inside from the conscience that God's put there. He's
yeah,
placed eternity in our hearts.
yeah,
And is it that Immanuel Kant was sort of saying that both of these worlds, far beyond us and deep within us, both are ruled by the inescapable truths and ways of God? If you obey, you get the results. If you don't, you get the
yeah,
consequences. And and so I just think that if we could, man, if we could, Chris, if we could get to a place where we could look at some of these things and say, I believe that God made this world. I
Yeah.
believe that God's embedded things into this world that are, they're incontrovertible.
Yeah.
That I don't have to defend it. I don't have to defend God. I just simply have to express my discovery. Um, the Wright brothers, the Wright brothers went to Kitty Hawk and they flew a plane.
Yeah.
They did not have to defend. There's other people being like, well, I just don't think it just doesn't have enough wings. And and people are like, okay, is your plane flying?
Right.
No. Okay. Well, then you're in the not the way category.
Yep.
Is their plane flying? Okay. And it just removes so much foolish hair splitting,
Yeah.
and it gets us back on track where we can, like you said, actually love people and actually say, look, they're not our enemies because we didn't invent truth.
Right.
Their problem
Right.
is they're on a pathway, they're on the way that will ultimately end in destruction. And so I don't want them to go there. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. And that's a great way. I think that's a great way to kind of put a bow on the conversation today, because I think that that says it so beautifully. And I do think the way that we've communicated, there are some truths, Ken. There are some eternal truths that have been settled from the beginning. And in the wisdom of God, he knew where culture and society would go with these things, and where he would take some of these things. And God settled those things eternally. And they're 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 unchanging, they're immutable, and it doesn't matter what society does or what they say. And I think what happens is in the moment we get worked up about it, and so then when we take a position and stand, the way we communicate it is viewed by people as hate,
Yeah.
right? It's a hateful position. And if we could get to the place that you're talking about, we would be able to communicate those values and those principles in such a way. There are going to be people that still say that you're full of hate and whatever. But if we could be like the Wright brothers, right? And be
Mhm.
like, look, man, we've built our lives on the truths of God. And it may not, I'm sure there were moments in that journey, in that process, where I'm sure there were people that doubted and wrote articles and said it's never going to happen. They're never going to fly. And I'm sure there was a season where there were, man, it's not working out the way I thought it was going to work. But here we are today, you
Bro.
know, with the air travel.
Yeah.
So
Can
what
you
if we
imagine the Wright
just
brothers in a cockpit of a plane today?
what if we right, right. What if we just said, you know what? Just keep building your life on the foundations of God. Just keep showing people Jesus is the better way. Just keep showing them. Listen, I get it. There are a lot of people that are doing crazy things because some of it's because of hurt and wounds. Some of
Yeah.
it's because of just rebellion. Some of it's because of carnality. Some of it's because of the things that has been pumped into them for, since they were born. Like
Yeah.
there's all of these different factors. If we could just get settled on that, Jesus is the better way. Let's follow the ways of Jesus and let
Yeah.
our lives express and show, like, man, this is what God can do in you and through you. So great,
Yeah.
great way to put a bow on that. Appreciate everybody listening today. Got some great comments. Michael Merkel on YouTube said that he loves the podcast. So we appreciate you
Awesome.
being on with us today. Appreciate that. So anything you want to say to wrap it up, Ken?
No, I just, not really. I think, um, ultimately, um, ultimately this allows us to be on the side of people who aren't on our side.
Mm, mm. I
It
love
allow
that.
it allows us to be able to say that I'm on God's side. I believe that He's going to prevail. His ways are going to prevail. My issue with the whole, uh, you know, choose your topic
Yeah.
is that in the end it will cause more dysfunction.
Yep.
It'll cause more pain. It'll cause more hurt. The answer is not, well, we could lower suicide limits or suicide limit rates if we would mitigate and limit the amount of negative conversation about it. I think that if we could, because then what happens is it's like, it's easy to say, see, you're targeting those people. And I think that if we could just begin to say, there's not the way, there's a way that's not the way. And I ultimately, Chris, if I believe that as believers, just as believers,
Yeah.
getting to that position where we could literally love people,
Yeah.
love people, because you know why? Because they're no threat.
Right.
They're no
Right.
threat.
They're nothing to the truth.
They're no threat to me.
Right.
They may be a threat to the America that you want, that you envision in your mind. They may be a threat to the kind of social construct you prefer.
Mhm.
But but 200 years from now,
Yeah.
they're not a threat to you, and they're not a threat to God. And 200 years from now, we're going to be enjoying glory with Jesus. So if they're not a threat, then I can treat them as a human being made in the image of God with massive dysfunction that we all experience.
Yeah.
Jesus is the way out.
So good, man. So good. Appreciate everybody jumping on and joining us today in the conversation, man. We've got a great turnout on all platforms, a lot of great comments. We certainly appreciate that. And I think this is such a relevant, important topic. And man, I think over the next 2+ months, Ken, 2.5 months, I think this
Mhm.
needs to be, man. This needs to guide our conduct, social media conduct, our conversations. This ought to guide our prayer life.
Mhm.
And what if we looked at it through kingdom eyes? What we think might be a detriment could actually be just an absolutely God opportunity,
Yeah,
right? It
100%,
could be an
man.
absolute God opportunity to show people that Jesus is the better way. So great conversation. Appreciate everybody being on. Look forward to coming back to you. We'll give an update, Ken, about next week. We may have some scheduling conflicts next week, but we will
Yeah.
give you some updates about that. But you can check out all the information on all the social media platforms. Check us out, thedillinghamgroup.org. And we would definitely love to connect with you. So thanks again for being here. We look forward to coming back to you. If not next week, the following week around 10 o'clock.